Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the data streaming across her monitor, her coffee growing cold as the implications sank in. The radio telescope at Arecibo had been picking up unusual signals for weeks, but this was different. The patterns weren't random cosmic noise or natural phenomena. They were structured, deliberate, and most disturbing of all, they were getting stronger. "Marcus, you need to see this," she called to her colleague across the dimly lit observatory. Dr. Marcus Webb, a veteran astronomer with 30 years of experience, wheeled his chair over to Sarah's workstation. His skeptical expression melted into concern as he studied the waveforms. "These frequency," Marcus whispered, adjusting his glasses. "They're not coming from deep space. They're originating from within our solar system." Sarah nodded grimly. "That's not the worst part. Look at this." She pulled up a comparison chart showing signal strength over the past month. The line climbed steadily upward, indicating whatever was transmitting was getting closer to Earth. The two scientists worked through the night, cross-referencing data from other observatories around the globe. By dawn, a chilling picture emerged. Multiple sources were transmitting in what appeared to be a coordinated pattern, positioned throughout the outer solar system. The signals weren't attempts at communication. They were tactical transmissions. "We need to contact the Pentagon," Marcus said, his voice heavy with the weight of their discovery. "This isn't a first contact scenario. This is reconnaissance." Within hours, their quiet observatory was swarming with military personnel and government officials. General Patricia Hayes, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, took charge of the situation. She listened intently as Sarah and Marcus presented their findings to a room full of people with security clearances, far above their pay grade. "How long do we have?" General Hayes asked after the presentation concluded. Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus. "Based on the signal strength progression and assuming they maintain current approach vectors, we estimate 6 months before they reach Earth's orbital space." The room fell silent. Someone coughed nervously. Finally, a man in a dark suit spoke up. "What about our space assets? Surely they would have detected something." "That's just it," Marcus replied. "They're using a transmission method that mimics solar radiation. Our satellites are designed to filter out that kind of interference. These beings know our technology well enough to hide in plain sight." General Hayes stood up, her decision already made. "This information is now classified at the highest levels. Dr. Chen, Dr. Webb, you're being reassigned to a special project. Pack your bags. We're moving you to a secure facility." 3 days later, Sarah found herself in an underground complex buried beneath the Colorado mountains. The facility buzzed with activity as the world's brightest minds worked around the clock to understand the alien threat. She was assigned to a team led by Dr. James Morrison, a former NASA engineer turned military contractor. "Welcome to Project Looking Glass," Morrison said during their first briefing. "Our job is to figure out what they want and how to stop them." The team quickly discovered that the aliens had been observing Earth for far longer than anyone had realized. Hidden transmissions buried in decades of archived data revealed a pattern of surveillance stretching back nearly 50 years. The visitors had been watching, learning, and preparing. "They know everything about us," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, a linguist specializing in pattern recognition. "Our military capabilities, our communication systems, our social structures. They've been planning this invasion for decades." As the weeks passed, more disturbing revelations emerged. The aliens had been manipulating certain radio frequencies to influence human behavior subtly. Nothing dramatic, just small nudges that promoted conflict and division among Earth's nations. They had been weakening humanity's unity while strengthening their own position. "It's psychological warfare on a global scale," Morrison explained during one late-night strategy session. "They've been turning us against each other while they prepared their assault." Sarah stared at the tactical display showing alien positions throughout the solar system. Red dots marked confirmed hostile vessels, while yellow indicated probable locations based on signal triangulation. Earth sat in the center, surrounded by a slowly tightening noose. "There has to be something they don't know about us," she said suddenly. "Some capability or characteristic they haven't accounted for." Morrison looked up from his calculations. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. They've been studying us for 50 years, but they're still out there preparing instead of attacking. They're being cautious. That suggests they respect our potential, even if they think they understand us completely." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Sarah might be onto something. In all their transmissions, They seem to focus on our technology and military structures, but they show little interest in our cultural diversity or individual creativity. They're thinking like a hive mind, Marcus added, having joined the project a week earlier. They understand hierarchies and command structures, but they might not grasp human unpredictability. General Hayes, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room, stepped forward. Are you suggesting we have an advantage they haven't considered? Sarah nodded slowly. Every simulation they've run assumes we'll respond logically and predictably. But humans don't always do the logical thing. We adapt, improvise, and sometimes make decisions that seem completely irrational, but turn out to be brilliant. Morrison began typing rapidly on his computer. If that's true, then our best strategy isn't to meet them with conventional forces. We need to be unpredictable. Use tactics they can't anticipate. A covert war, General Hayes mused. Hit them where they don't expect, using methods they haven't planned for. The room filled with renewed energy as the team began developing scenarios that played to humanity's strengths. They would use the aliens' overconfidence against them, striking from unexpected angles while maintaining the appearance of weakness. They think they know us, Sarah said, staring at the alien positions on the tactical display. Let's show them how wrong they are. Outside the mountain facility, the world continued its daily routine, unaware that their planet was surrounded by hostile forces. But deep underground, the seeds of humanity's most desperate gamble were being planted. The covert war for Earth's survival was about to begin. Captain Jake Morrison received the encrypted message at 0300 hours while stationed aboard the International Space Station. The seemingly routine maintenance directive contained hidden instructions that made his blood run cold. His brother James had sent word through channels Jake didn't even know existed. Earth was under surveillance by hostile aliens, and Jake's unique position made him crucial to humanity's survival. Over the next 72 hours, Jake began noticing things he had previously dismissed. Subtle anomalies in deep space telescope readings, minor glitches in satellite communications, and strange interference patterns that seemed to follow no natural rhythm. The aliens were indeed there, hidden in the cosmic background like digital ghosts. Following his brother's coded instructions, Jake began making careful modifications to the station's equipment. He rerouted communication arrays and installed seemingly innocent software patches that would actually allow the facility underground to piggyback on NASA's official transmissions. To any observer, including his fellow astronauts, Jake was simply performing routine maintenance. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Hayes was assembling the most unconventional military force in human history. Rather than relying on traditional armed forces, she recruited individuals whose skills lay outside normal military doctrine, computer hackers who could infiltrate systems without leaving traces, street magicians who understood misdirection and illusion, urban explorers who knew how to move unseen through cities, even reformed criminals whose understanding of law enforcement weaknesses proved invaluable. Maria Santos had been serving a sentence for corporate espionage when two men in dark suits visited her maximum security prison. They offered her a choice: continue her 20-year sentence or join a special government project. The catch was that she couldn't know what the project involved until after she agreed. Something in their eyes told her this wasn't a typical government recruitment. The world needs people who can think outside the law. One of the men explained after Maria agreed and signed documents that would make her officially dead if she tried to back out. People who understand that sometimes rules need to be broken to serve a greater good. They transported Maria to the Colorado facility, where she met others like herself. Tommy Chen, a former gang member turned computer genius. Dr. Abdul Hassan, a brilliant physicist who had been blacklisted from academic institutions for his radical theories about space-time manipulation. Rebecca Red O'Connor, a former Special Forces operative who had been discharged for questioning orders she considered unethical. Welcome to the Irregulars, James Morrison told the assembled group during their first briefing. You're here because you've all proven capable of achieving impossible things through unconventional means. The underground facility had been transformed into something resembling a cross between a military command center and a hacker's paradise. Multiple screens displayed real-time data from observatories worldwide, while workstations buzzed with activity as teams analyzed alien communication patterns and developed countermeasures. Maria's first assignment involved infiltrating major telecommunications, companies to install backdoors that would allow humanity to maintain communications, even if the aliens jammed traditional channels. Using her old corporate contacts and some carefully crafted social engineering, she gained access to switching stations and server farms across 3 continents. The beautiful thing about corporate infrastructure, Maria explained to Tommy as they worked on installing hidden relay systems, is that it's so complex that nobody really knows everything that's supposed to be there. Add a few components with official-looking documentation, and they become invisible. Tommy was working on a different problem. The aliens had demonstrated the ability to monitor human communications, but they seemed to focus on official military and government channels. His job was to create a completely parallel communication network, using gaming platforms, social media, and other civilian systems that aliens might consider unimportant. They're looking for radio transmissions and secure government networks, Tommy explained during a team meeting. But they're probably not monitoring World of Warcraft guild chat or Instagram direct messages. We can hide military communications in plain sight by disguising them as civilian data. Dr. Hassan had perhaps the most challenging assignment. Based on the alien signal analysis, their technology appeared to rely heavily on gravitational field manipulation. Hassan's controversial theories about local space-time distortion suddenly seemed less radical and more prophetic. If we can create localized gravitational anomalies, Hassan explained to a skeptical audience of military engineers, we might be able to disrupt their propulsion systems or communications. The energy requirements would be enormous, but I believe it's possible using focused nuclear detonations in specific geometric patterns. Red O'Connor was tasked with training the irregular forces in unconventional warfare tactics. Her approach differed drastically from standard military doctrine. Instead of confronting the enemy directly, she taught hit-and-run tactics, psychological warfare, and the art of making a small force appear much larger through careful coordination. Forget everything you know about fair fighting, Red told her trainees during a particularly intense session. Fair fighting is for sports and honor duels. This is about survival. We're going to lie, cheat, steal, and do whatever it takes to protect our planet. The facility's most secret project involved Jake Morrison and a select team of astronauts who had been quietly read into the program. Using the International Space Station as a cover, they were positioning small, undetectable monitoring devices throughout Earth's orbital space. Each device was disguised as space debris and powered by solar cells that made them nearly invisible to detection. We're building an early warning network, Jake explained during a coded transmission to the ground team. When they make their move, we'll see them coming long before they expect us to react. As weeks turned into months, the underground network grew more sophisticated. Civilian volunteers, unaware of the true purpose, helped establish communication relays and supply caches under the guise of disaster preparedness exercises. Ham radio operators were recruited to maintain backup communication systems. Even children's science projects were co-opted to gather atmospheric and electromagnetic data. The aliens continued their slow approach, apparently confident that their long surveillance had given them complete knowledge of human capabilities. They had no way of knowing that beneath their feet, humanity was evolving into something they had never encountered before, a species capable of unity without uniformity, organization without hierarchy, and warfare without honor. Sarah Chen monitored the aliens' communications from her workstation, noting subtle changes in their transmission patterns. They're getting more confident, she reported during the daily briefing. Signal traffic has increased and they're using less encryption. They think they're dealing with a primitive, predictable species. General Hayes smiled grimly. Let them keep thinking that. The longer they underestimate us, the better our chances when the shooting starts. Outside, the world continued its normal routine, but underneath, humanity was preparing for a war unlike any in its history. The covert resistance was ready to show the aliens that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. The message arrived on every television screen, radio frequency, and internet connection simultaneously. President Catherine Walsh stood in the Oval Office, watching the alien transmission with a mixture of terror and fascination. The creature on the screen was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways that made her skin crawl. Its eyes were too large, its movements too fluid, and when it spoke, the words seemed to bypass her ears and appear directly in her mind. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Commander Zeph Kal of the Hegemony, Your species has reached a critical point in its development, and we are here to guide you toward a better future. We come in peace, seeking only to share our advanced knowledge and help you take your rightful place among the civilized species of the galaxy. The transmission continued for exactly 10 minutes, outlining humanity's supposed shortcomings and offering technological advancement in exchange for cooperation with hegemony authority. The message ended with coordinates for a meeting between human representatives and alien delegates in neutral space near the moon. Within hours, every world leader received detailed instructions for the diplomatic contact. The aliens had done their homework, addressing each nation in their native language and referencing specific cultural traditions. They appeared to understand human politics better than most humans did. In the underground facility, the irregular forces watched the transmission with grim satisfaction. The aliens had revealed far more than they intended. "Look at this," Dr. Vasquez said, pointing to linguistic analysis scrolling across her screen. "They're using psychological manipulation techniques in their word choices. Every phrase is designed to make us feel inferior while presenting them as benevolent saviors." James Morrison studied the technical aspects of the transmission. The fact that they could override every communication system on Earth simultaneously tells us their technology is even more advanced than we estimated. But notice what they didn't do. No demonstration of military power, no threats of consequences for refusal. They're still trying to conquer us through deception rather than force. General Hayes had been expecting this moment for months. Phase 1 of their plan was about to begin. While world leaders publicly debated how to respond to the alien contact, she was preparing to send humanity's real answer. The official human delegation consisted of diplomats, scientists, and military advisors who genuinely believed they were humanity's first contact with an alien species. President Walsh personally selected Ambassador Robert Sterling, a career diplomat known for his skill in international negotiations. Dr. Amanda Foster, NASA's chief astrobiologist, would handle scientific exchange. General Michael Patterson would assess any military implications. What none of them knew was that their mission served as the perfect cover for the real human response. Captain Sarah Kim had been secretly reassigned from her position as a shuttle pilot to what her official records claimed was special diplomatic security duty. In reality, she was commanding humanity's first covert strike against an alien target. Her modified shuttle carried hidden scanning equipment, stealth drones, and most importantly, Rebecca O'Connor and her team of irregulars. "Remember, we're ghosts," Red briefed her team as they approached the meeting coordinates. "The aliens expect a primitive species sending their best diplomats to beg for scraps of technology. They're not looking for a military reconnaissance mission disguised as a diplomatic escort." The alien vessel was magnificent and terrifying, 3 kilometers long and shaped like a crystalline spear. It hung in space near Earth's moon with casual indifference to human military might. Sensor readings showed energy signatures that defied conventional physics, weapon systems that could probably destroy entire fleets, and shielding technology that made the ship nearly impervious to attack. Ambassador Sterling's shuttle docked with the alien vessel exactly on schedule. The diplomatic team was greeted by Commander Zeph Cal and an entourage of alien officials who seemed designed to inspire awe and submission. The meeting hall was vast, filled with impossible architecture that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Meanwhile, Sarah Kim's security escort took up position several kilometers away, officially providing overwatch for the diplomatic mission. In reality, they were deploying a cloud of microscopic drones that would infiltrate the alien vessel's outer hull and begin mapping its internal structure. Biological and technological analysis complete, Maria Santos reported from her hidden position in the shuttle's cargo bay. Their ship's outer hull is partially organic. The drones are reading cellular structures integrated with metallic components. It's like they grew their technology rather than building it. Inside the alien vessel, the diplomatic exchange proceeded exactly as the aliens expected. Ambassador Sterling asked careful questions about alien technology and civilization. Dr. Foster exchanged scientific data about Earth's biosphere. General Patterson tried to assess alien military capabilities while appearing diplomatic. The aliens responded with condescending patience, offering small technological gifts while emphasizing humanity's need for guidance. They presented themselves as benevolent educators, willing to share knowledge with a primitive but promising species. "Your world shows great potential, Commander Zeph Cal told the human delegation, but you must overcome your violent tendencies and tribal divisions. The hegemony can help you achieve unity and peace. What the aliens didn't notice was that every word, gesture, and technological demonstration was being recorded by hidden sensors woven into the diplomat's clothing. Tommy Chen had spent weeks developing recording devices that mimicked human nervous system electrical patterns, making them undetectable to alien scans. The real intelligence coup came when Dr. Hassan's gravitational field detectors, disguised as standard navigation equipment, began mapping the alien ship's internal structure. The readings revealed something extraordinary. The massive vessel was mostly empty space, with critical systems concentrated in a relatively small central core. "They're not showing us their real ship," Hassan whispered into his hidden communicator. "This is a shell, a facade designed to impress us. The actual command and control systems are protected inside multiple layers of deception." As the diplomatic meeting continued, Red's team had identified 17 different ways to board the alien vessel undetected, mapped its basic defensive systems, and discovered that its apparently impregnable shields had several significant blind spots. Most importantly, they confirmed that the aliens were indeed overconfident. Security protocols aboard their ship were designed to prevent primitive species from causing damage with crude technology. They had no defenses against human unpredictability and unconventional thinking. The diplomatic meeting concluded with promises of future cooperation and cultural exchange. The aliens offered to establish a permanent embassy on Earth and invited human representatives to visit their nearest base. Everything proceeded according to their plan for peaceful subjugation. Ambassador Sterling returned to Earth convinced that he had successfully initiated humanity's integration into galactic civilization. His report to world leaders emphasized the aliens' overwhelming technological superiority and their apparent benevolence. President Walsh publicly announced humanity's acceptance of alien guidance while privately reading the real intelligence reports from the Covert mission. The aliens had revealed their location, capabilities, and most critically, their weaknesses. "They're playing a game they think they've already won," General Hayes told the assembled irregular forces. "They see us as children who need protection and guidance. They have no idea that children can be incredibly dangerous when they're fighting for their lives." The covert war was about to escalate. Phase 2 would test humanity's ability to strike at an enemy that believed itself invulnerable. The aliens thought they understood human nature perfectly, but they were about to discover that humans were capable of evolving far faster than any species they had previously encountered. In the depths of space, Commander Zeph Cal reviewed the diplomatic reports with satisfaction. The humans were responding exactly as predicted. Soon Earth would become another peaceful member of the hegemony, its violent tendencies suppressed and its resources efficiently managed. He had no way of knowing that humanity had just declared war on his entire species, using methods his people couldn't imagine and tactics they had never encountered. The covert conflict for Earth's freedom was entering its deadliest phase. 3 weeks after first contact, the aliens began experiencing technical difficulties they couldn't explain. Commander Zeph Cal stared at the diagnostic reports with growing frustration. Navigation systems were experiencing random errors. Communication arrays were picking up strange interference. Most disturbing of all, several monitoring stations throughout the solar system had simply gone silent. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his chief engineer, Vornex. "These systems have operated flawlessly for decades. Human technology is centuries behind ours." Vornex's tentacles writhed with uncertainty. "The failures appear random, but the probability of so many simultaneous malfunctions suggests sabotage. However, our security systems show no evidence of intrusion." What neither alien knew was that Maria Santos was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown Denver, remotely infiltrating their systems through a pathway that didn't exist in their understanding of technology, using quantum entanglement communicators disguised as smartphone accessories. She was accessing alien networks through principles the hegemony had dismissed as impossible for primitive species to master. "Their security is impressive but narrow," Maria reported during the daily briefing. "They've protected against direct intrusion and brute force attacks, but they never considered someone would use their own biomechanical interfaces against them. I'm basically convincing their ships that I'm part of their nervous system." Tommy Chen had discovered something even more useful. The aliens' organic technology required constant biochemical maintenance, similar to how human bodies needed food and rest. By introducing carefully designed synthetic hormones into their ship's life support systems, he could trigger system-wide illnesses that would be interpreted as natural malfunctions. "It's like giving their ship a cold," Tommy explained to fascinated military engineers. "The symptoms look completely natural, but the timing and severity are under our control." The first major strike came when Jake Morrison and his space-based team targeted an alien monitoring station hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. Rather than attacking it directly, they used Dr. Hassan's gravitational manipulation theories to create a microscopic black hole that lasted exactly 0.03 seconds. The brief gravitational anomaly didn't destroy the station, but it disrupted every quantum processor on board. To alien sensors, it appeared as if the station had been hit by a natural cosmic phenomenon. The facility went offline, its crew evacuated to the nearest hegemony base, and the entire sector was marked as unstable space. "Brilliant," General Hayes commented as she reviewed the mission reports. "We eliminated a major surveillance asset and they're blaming it on bad luck. But the real genius of humanity's covert war lay in its psychological component." Red O'Connor had been studying alien behavioral patterns and discovered something crucial. The hegemony was a collective species that valued predictability and order above all else. Random failures and unexplained events triggered anxiety responses that clouded their judgment. "They're starting to jump at shadows," Red reported after analyzing intercepted alien communications. "Every minor system glitch is being investigated as a potential threat. They're wasting enormous resources, chasing problems that don't exist." The next phase targeted the aliens' confidence in their own superiority. Dr. Vasquez had been analyzing their language patterns and discovered that hegemony culture was built around the concept of inevitable progress. They believed their technology and social systems represented the peak of possible development. "What happens when perfection starts failing?" Vasquez asked during a strategy meeting. "How does a species that believes itself infallible react when things go wrong?" The answer came when Tommy Chen successfully introduced a logic virus into the alien fleet's central database. Not a destructive program, but rather a subtle alteration that made their computers occasionally reach incorrect conclusions about simple mathematical problems. Navigation calculations would be off by tiny fractions. Resource allocation algorithms would make inefficient decisions. Tactical assessments would contain minor but crucial errors. The beauty of the virus was that it only activated randomly and briefly. Most of the time, alien systems worked perfectly, but just often enough to be noticed, their infallible technology would make mistakes. Commander Zeph Cal found himself questioning reports that should have been routine. When his tactical officer reported that Earth's defensive capabilities were negligible, he ordered a second analysis. When the science division concluded that humans posed no threat to hegemony technology, he demanded verification from multiple sources. "Perhaps we have underestimated this species," he confided to his second-in-command during a private moment. "Their diplomatic responses suggest primitive thinking, but these system failures are unprecedented." The aliens' growing paranoia was exactly what humanity needed. While the hegemony wasted time and resources investigating phantom threats, the irregular forces were preparing their most audacious operation yet. Using intelligence gathered during the diplomatic mission, Rebecca O'Connor had identified the aliens' primary command vessel. It was a massive dreadnought stationed just outside Earth's orbit, serving as the nerve center for the entire invasion fleet. The ship was surrounded by layers of defensive screening, protected by energy shields that could withstand direct assault from humanity's most powerful weapons. But Red had noticed something during the reconnaissance mission. The ship's organic components required periodic renewal, similar to how living creatures needed to shed old cells and grow new ones. During these maintenance cycles, small sections of the hull would become temporarily vulnerable. "We don't need to destroy the ship," Red explained to her infiltration team. "We just need to get inside and plant Hassan's gravitational resonance devices in the right locations. When activated, they'll create harmonic vibrations that will tear the ship apart from within." The infiltration required precise timing and extraordinary coordination. Maria would have to disable specific security systems at exactly the right moments. Tommy would need to mask the infiltration team's heat signatures by convincing the ship's sensors that they were part of a scheduled maintenance operation. Hassan would have to calculate gravitational resonance frequencies that would destroy the ship without creating a gravity well that might threaten Earth. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison and his space-based assets would provide distraction by triggering false alarms throughout the alien fleet. Every monitoring station, patrol vessel, and communication relay would simultaneously report suspicious activity in their sectors, forcing the aliens to spread their attention across dozens of potential threats. The operation began at 300 hours Earth time. As Red's team approached the alien dreadnought in a stealth shuttle disguised as orbital debris, alarms began sounding throughout the hegemony fleet. Patrol vessels rushed to investigate phantom contacts. Communication networks buzzed with confused reports of impossible sensor readings. Status report, Commander Zef Kal demanded as his bridge crew struggled to make sense of the chaos. Multiple contacts across all sectors, his tactical officer reported. But sensors show nothing when our ships arrive. It's as if the universe itself is malfunctioning. While the alien fleet chased ghosts, Red's team successfully penetrated the dreadnought's hull during a routine maintenance cycle. They had exactly 17 minutes to plant Hassan's devices before the ship's immune system would detect foreign objects. Moving through alien corridors was like navigating the inside of a living creature. Walls pulsed with organic rhythms, and the air itself seemed to whisper with alien thoughts. But the team had trained for this environment, using breathing apparatus that filtered out the ship's psychotropic atmosphere and wearing suits that mimicked alien biosignatures. Hassan's gravitational resonance devices were no larger than coins, but each one was precisely calibrated to create destructive interference with the ship's structural integrity. The team placed them at 7 critical points throughout the vessel, locations that Hassan had calculated would maximize structural damage while minimizing the risk of creating a dangerous gravity well. With 30 seconds to spare, Red's team extracted successfully, their shuttle disappearing into Earth's orbital debris field just as the alien ship's security systems completed their maintenance cycle. 12 hours later, the gravitational resonance devices activated simultaneously. To outside observers, the massive dreadnought simply began coming apart, its hull developing stress fractures that spread like spider webs across its entire surface. The ship's organic systems tried to repair the damage, but the resonance frequency made healing impossible. Commander Zef Kal evacuated his vessel minutes before it broke apart completely. As he watched his flagship disintegrate, he finally understood that the hegemony was not facing a primitive species that needed guidance. They were at war with an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered, one that fought with weapons they couldn't detect and tactics they couldn't comprehend. The humans had declared war without saying a word, and they were winning battles the aliens didn't even know were being fought. The covert war was about to become much more dangerous for everyone involved. The destruction of the alien flagship sent shockwaves through both the hegemony fleet and Earth's covert resistance. Commander Zef Kal, now aboard a secondary vessel, stared at the debris field where his dreadnought had been. His species had conquered 47 worlds over 3 millennia, and never had they lost a capital ship to an enemy they couldn't even identify. "Scan the wreckage," he ordered his new tactical officer. "I want to know what weapon could cause structural failure of that magnitude." The analysis revealed nothing. No energy discharge signatures, no projectile impact points, no trace of exotic radiation that might indicate an unknown weapon type. The ship had simply torn itself apart from the inside, as if its own structure had forgotten how to maintain cohesion. Meanwhile, in the underground facility beneath Colorado, celebrations were muted by the knowledge that humanity had just crossed a line they couldn't uncross. The aliens would now know they were under active assault, even if they couldn't identify their attackers. "They'll change tactics," General Hayes warned during the emergency briefing. "Up until now, they've been operating under the assumption that we're a peaceful species that needs guidance. That assumption is officially dead." Dr. Sarah Chen had been monitoring alien communications since the flagship's destruction. The intercepted transmissions painted a disturbing picture of an enemy re-evaluating everything they thought they knew about humanity. "They're implementing Protocol 7, Sarah reported, her face pale. "I've been tracking their communication patterns for months, and this is the first time I've seen that designation. Whatever Protocol 7 is, it represents a significant escalation in their operational status." The answer came within hours. Across Earth, the alien cultural exchange centers that had been established after first contact suddenly became heavily fortified positions. Alien troops, previously hidden aboard orbital stations, began deploying to the surface under the guise of enhanced security measures. President Walsh received an urgent communication from Commander Zefcal that was broadcast simultaneously to every world leader. The aliens' demeanor had changed completely from their first contact. Gone was the paternal benevolence replaced by cold military efficiency. Leaders of Earth, recent events have demonstrated that your world harbors hostile elements that threaten peaceful cooperation between our species. The hegemony is implementing enhanced security protocols to protect both our personnel and your civilian population from these unknown aggressors. That the message was clear. The aliens were beginning an occupation in all but name. Alien troops would patrol major cities. Alien technology would monitor all communications. Any resistance would be met with overwhelming force to protect innocent civilians from the actions of terrorists. In the facility, James Morrison was analyzing the aliens' new deployment patterns when he made a chilling discovery. They're not just occupying strategic locations, he told the assembled team. They're positioning forces specifically to control our infrastructure. Power grids, communication hubs, water treatment facilities. If they wanted to, they could shut down human civilization without firing a shot. The irregular forces found themselves facing a completely different tactical situation. Their hit-and-run operations against isolated targets were no longer possible when the aliens had established a visible presence on Earth. Any attack risked civilian casualties and would reveal humanity's covert resistance to the world. We need to shift strategies, Red O'Connor announced during a tense planning session. Direct action is off the table as long as they're embedded in population centers. But we still have advantages they don't know about. Maria Santos had been working on the problem from her unique perspective. Their occupation forces are relying on the same biomechanical technology as their ships, she reported. But they're not isolated anymore. They're interfacing with human infrastructure, which means I might be able to access their systems through completely different pathways. Tommy Chen had a more ambitious idea. What if we turn their own strategy against them? They're using the threat to civilians to protect themselves from attack. But what if we could make them want to leave Earth voluntarily? Dr. Hassan had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now he spoke up with barely contained excitement. I've been analyzing the gravitational resonance data from the flagship destruction. The aliens' biomechanical technology has a fundamental vulnerability that I don't think they're aware of. Explain, General Hayes ordered. Their organic components operate on quantum biological processes, Hassan said, pulling up complex equations on the main display. They've achieved seamless integration between living tissue and synthetic materials by synchronizing quantum states. But that synchronization requires constant quantum coherence. The room was silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Vasquez was the first to understand. You're saying their entire technological base is vulnerable to quantum decoherence? Hassan nodded. If we could generate a quantum disruption field of sufficient magnitude, their biomechanical systems would lose cohesion. Their ships would become just organic matter and random metal components. Their weapons would stop functioning. Their soldiers would be wearing useless armor and carrying broken equipment. How big would such a field need to be? General Hayes asked. Planetary scale, Hassan admitted. And the energy requirements would be enormous. We'd need to tap into Earth's entire electrical grid simultaneously, plus every nuclear reactor, plus some additional power sources I'm not sure exist. James Morrison was already running calculations. The aliens' fusion reactors. If we could somehow tap into their power generation systems, we'd need to access their reactors from the inside, Maria said slowly, and we'd need to do it simultaneously across their entire fleet. If even one ship maintains quantum coherence, they could re-establish the field for the others. The plan that emerged over the following days was the most audacious operation in human history. They would infiltrate every alien facility on Earth and in orbit, plant quantum disruption devices synchronized to activate simultaneously, and essentially turn off the aliens' technology across the entire solar system. The operation required unprecedented coordination. Jake Morrison would lead the space-based teams targeting orbital facilities. Red O'Connor would command ground teams hitting the surface installations. Maria Santos would provide electronic warfare support, hacking alien systems to provide access and cover. Tommy Chen would coordinate communications using his hidden civilian networks. Dr. Hassan would monitor quantum field stability and trigger the final activation. Most critically, they would need to maintain absolute secrecy. If the aliens detected the operation before it was complete, they could adapt their technology or simply destroy Earth's infrastructure preemptively. Preparation took 3 weeks. During that time, the aliens continued tightening their control over Earth. Humans were required to carry identification cards embedded with alien monitoring technology. Major cities were placed under martial law disguised as protective supervision. Any technology that could potentially threaten alien forces was confiscated under safety regulations. The world's leaders found themselves trapped between cooperating with an obviously hostile occupation and risking massive civilian casualties by resisting. Most chose cooperation, hoping that compliance would eventually lead to the aliens reducing their military presence. They had no idea that beneath their feet, humanity was preparing to attempt something that would either free Earth completely or result in the complete destruction of human civilization. Everyone understands the stakes. General Hayes addressed the assembled teams on the night before the operation. If we succeed, we disable every alien ship and weapon in the solar system simultaneously. If we fail, they'll know exactly what we're capable of and they'll respond with total warfare. Sarah Chen had calculated their chances based on every variable she could quantify. 63% probability of technical success, she reported. But that assumes everything goes perfectly. No equipment failures, no detection, no unexpected alien countermeasures. And if we're detected before completion? President Walsh asked. She had secretly joined the operation, having realized that diplomatic cooperation was merely delaying humanity's enslavement. Then we find out whether human ingenuity and determination can overcome technologically superior firepower. Red answered grimly. Either way, tomorrow the covert war ends. We either win our freedom or die fighting for it. The alien occupation forces continued their patrols, confident that they had successfully contained any threat from Earth's primitive population. They had no idea that in less than 24 hours, they would discover whether humanity was truly the inferior species they believed, or something far more dangerous than they had ever encountered. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, fought with weapons the aliens couldn't detect and tactics they couldn't comprehend. Operation Blackout began at precisely 0000 hours Greenwich Mean Time. Across the globe, teams of irregular forces moved through the darkness toward alien installations that had been studied, mapped, and infiltrated over months of careful preparation. The fate of humanity rested on the next 6 hours. In New York City, Rebecca O'Connor led her team through abandoned subway tunnels toward the massive alien administrative complex that had been constructed in Central Park. The biomechanical structure rose like a twisted organic spire, its surface pulsing with alien life signs that made her stomach turn. But somewhere inside that nightmare architecture was a quantum reactor that could power entire cities. Movement on the perimeter, whispered Marcus Webb, who had traded his astronomy career for battlefield reconnaissance. 2 sentries, standard patrol pattern. They'll pass the maintenance access in 40 seconds. Red checked her chronometer. Across the planet, dozens of similar teams were approaching their targets at the exact same moment. Timing was everything. If any team was detected before all the quantum disruptors were in place, the aliens would realize what was happening and activate countermeasures. Meanwhile, 300 kilometers above Earth, Jake Morrison was having problems of his own. The alien orbital station he needed to infiltrate was larger than anticipated, and his team had discovered that its quantum reactor was located in a section that required passing through at least 12 security checkpoints. We're not going to make the deadline, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim over their encrypted communications. This facility is 3 times larger than our intelligence suggested. Negative, Jake replied grimly. We stick to the timeline. Find another way. On the ground in Tokyo, Maria Santos was experiencing a different kind of challenge. She had successfully infiltrated the alien communication hub, but the biomechanical interfaces were more sophisticated than anything she had encountered before. The alien technology seemed to be actively resisting her attempts at access. It's like the system knows I'm not supposed to be here, she reported to Tommy Chen, who was coordinating the electronic warfare from a hidden bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. The organic components, are adapting to my intrusion faster than I can work around them. Tommy's fingers flew across multiple keyboards simultaneously. I'm reading quantum fluctuations in their biomechanical matrices. They've upgraded their security since we hit the flagship. Hold position. I'm going to try something. Dr. Hassan monitored the global operation from his station in the Colorado facility, watching quantum field measurements from monitoring stations hidden across 6 continents. Every alien installation they needed to hit was showing on his displays, and the countdown timer in the corner of his screen showed 4 hours and 17 minutes until the synchronized activation. Teams 7 and 12 are behind schedule, reported General Hayes from the main tactical display. Team 7 is encountering unexpected resistance at the London facility. Team 12 lost their demolitions expert to an alien patrol and is trying to complete the mission with reduced personnel. Hassan checked his calculations again. They needed at least 85% of the quantum disruptors in place for the field effect to cascade properly. If too many teams failed to reach their targets, the entire operation would collapse. President Walsh, monitoring the operation from a secure bunker beneath Washington, D.C., received updates that made her question humanity's chances. How many teams have successfully placed their devices? 53% so far, replied James Morrison, who was coordinating the global effort. But we're only 2 hours into a 6-hour operation. The most difficult targets are still pending. The most challenging assignment belonged to a team led by Dr. Elena Vasquez, who was attempting to infiltrate the alien fleet's primary command vessel. The ship was a kilometer-long organic nightmare that hung in space like a diseased whale, bristling with defensive systems and sensors that could detect human presence at enormous distances. We're going to have to go in loud, Vasquez reported to Jake Morrison's orbital coordination team. Stealth approach is impossible. Their biosensors are reading human DNA signatures from 50 kilometers away. Negative, Elena. If you're detected, they'll know what we're doing and activate countermeasures across the entire fleet. Then we need a distraction, big enough to mask our approach. Jake Morrison made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All orbital teams prepare for combat. We're going to give Elena her distraction. The space battle that erupted around Earth's orbital zone was brief but spectacular. Human attack shuttles, hastily modified with the most advanced weapons Earth could produce, engaged alien patrol vessels in a desperate holding action. The aliens' biomechanical fighters were superior in every measurable way, but they weren't expecting humans to attack openly after months of covert operations. This is suicide, reported Captain Chen as her shuttle's shields failed under alien fire. We can't match their technology. We don't need to win, Jake replied, launching his own attack against an alien destroyer. We just need to keep them busy for 20 minutes. The distraction worked. While alien attention focused on the unexpected human attack, Elena's team successfully breached the command vessel and began the delicate process of installing Hassan's quantum disruptor directly into the ship's primary reactor core. Back on Earth, Red O'Connor's team had reached the New York reactor, but they faced an unexpected problem. The alien facility was filled with human civilians who had been brought in as cultural exchange participants. Any attempt to disable the reactor risked killing hundreds of innocent people. Options? Red demanded of her technical specialist. We can set the disruptor to activate 30 seconds after the main field goes live, replied Dr. Foster, Hassan's protege who had joined the ground teams. That might give people time to evacuate once the other alien systems fail. Might isn't good. Enough. It's the best we can do without aborting the mission. Red made the hardest decision of her military career. Plant the device. We'll have to hope those people can get clear in time. As the operation entered its final phase, teams across the globe were reporting successful infiltrations despite enormous obstacles. The alien installations were better defended than anticipated, but human adaptability was proving superior to alien preparation. Where technology failed, ingenuity succeeded. Where stealth was impossible, audacity worked. Maria Santos finally cracked the Tokyo communication hub by convincing the biomechanical system that she was an authorized alien technician conducting routine maintenance. Tommy Chen had created a perfect digital disguise that fooled even the most sophisticated security systems. Quantum disruptor in place, Maria reported. These things are really going to work? Hassan's voice came back filled with exhaustion and uncertainty. Theoretical models say yes. Reality might disagree. With 1 hour remaining until synchronization, Hassan began the final sequence that would link all the quantum disruptors into a single, planet-wide network. The devices would activate simultaneously, creating a cascade effect that would disrupt quantum coherence across the entire solar system. "All teams report status," ordered General Hayes. The responses came back from around the world. 87% of targets successfully infiltrated, quantum disruptors in place and ready for activation. Human casualties were higher than hoped but lower than feared. "Orbital teams, status report," Jake Morrison called from his damaged shuttle. "Primary command vessel compromised," Elena reported. "Disruptor placed and armed. We lost 3 people getting here, but the mission is complete." Hassan stared at his master control panel as the countdown timer approached 0. In 30 seconds, they would discover whether human ingenuity could overcome alien technology. Whether a species that had been underestimated by every enemy they had ever faced could pull off the most audacious military operation in galactic history. "All stations, prepare for quantum field activation," Hassan announced. "In 10 seconds, we either liberate Earth or commit species suicide." Around the globe, hundreds of humans held their breath as Hassan's finger hovered over the activation switch. Commander Zeph Kal, aboard his new flagship, was reviewing patrol reports when every alien system in the solar system suddenly began experiencing the same impossible malfunction. The quantum disruption field, activated with a pulse that was felt rather than seen, a ripple through reality itself that severed the connection between alien consciousness and their biomechanical technology. The covert war was about to end one way or another. The effect was instantaneous and absolute. Across the solar system, every piece of alien technology simply stopped working. Commander Zeph Kal watched in horror as his flagship's organic walls began dissolving into component molecules. Control panels that had functioned flawlessly for centuries became inert biomass. Weapon systems that could destroy planets became powerless sculptures of metal and flesh. "What is happening?" he demanded of his crew, but his words fell on deaf ears. Without their biomechanical interfaces, the aliens could no longer communicate through their shared consciousness network. Each individual found themselves alone inside their own mind for the first time in their evolutionary history. On Earth, the results were equally dramatic. Alien patrol units found their powered armor becoming dead weight. Their weapons would not fire. Their communication devices had become silent. Most critically, their atmospheric processors had failed, meaning they could no longer breathe Earth's oxygen-rich environment. Without artificial assistance they no longer possessed. Rebecca. O'Connor emerged from the New York facility to find alien soldiers stumbling through the streets, their biomechanical suits failing around them. The creatures inside were revealed to be surprisingly fragile beings, dependent on their technology for basic survival in Earth's environment. "All teams, report status," she called into her radio, hardly believing that the plan had actually worked. Responses came back from around the globe. The quantum disruption field was holding steady. Alien installations were going dark one by one as their organic components lost cohesion. Most importantly, human casualties from the field activation were minimal. The civilians in alien facilities had been successfully evacuated when the aliens themselves became incapacitated. In space, Jake Morrison watched alien ships breaking apart as their biomechanical hulls could no longer maintain structural integrity. The massive command vessel that Elena's team had infiltrated was slowly dissolving like a sugar cube in water, its crew evacuating in primitive escape pods that relied on purely mechanical systems. "Hassan, you magnificent genius," Jake called over the radio. "Your quantum field is working perfectly. Every alien ship in the system is dead in space." Dr. Hassan monitored the field strength from his Colorado bunker, hardly able to believe his own success. The quantum disruption was cascading exactly as his models had predicted, creating a zone of quantum decoherence that extended throughout Earth's solar system. As long as the field remained active, alien biomechanical technology would be completely inoperative. General Hayes stood in the main command center, watching tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of alien military capability. After months of fighting a secret war against technologically superior enemies, humanity had achieved total victory in less than 6 hours. "All resistance cells. This is command," she broadcast on all channels. Commence humanitarian operations. The aliens are now dependent on us for survival. It was a moment that perfectly captured the irony of the situation. The species that had come to guide humanity toward civilization now required human assistance to remain alive on Earth's surface. President Walsh emerged from her bunker to address the world. For the first time since first contact, she could tell the complete truth about what had been happening. My fellow humans, she began her global broadcast. For the past 8 months, we have been engaged in a covert war for the survival of our species. The aliens who presented themselves as benevolent guides were actually advance forces for an invasion fleet. Today, that threat has been permanently neutralized. The revelation that humanity had been secretly fighting and winning a war against technologically superior aliens sent shockwaves around the globe. But the evidence was undeniable. Alien installations stood powerless. Alien ships floated dead in space. The would-be conquerors were now refugees dependent on human charity. Commander Zefcal found himself in the humiliating position of requesting asylum on the planet he had planned to conquer. Without their biomechanical technology, his people were completely helpless. They couldn't operate their ships, couldn't process breathable atmosphere, couldn't even communicate with their homeworlds to request rescue. "We underestimated your species severely," he admitted during his first meeting with human representatives. Speaking through a primitive translation device, he seemed diminished without his technological enhancements. "Your capacity for deception and strategic thinking exceeded our most pessimistic projections." Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as humanity's lead xenobiologist, studied the stranded aliens with fascination. Without their biomechanical enhancements, they were revealed to be highly intelligent but physically fragile creatures who had become completely dependent on their symbiotic technology. "Their entire civilization is based on biomechanical integration," she explained during a briefing for world leaders. "They've been using this technology for so long that they've lost the ability to survive without it. In trying to make themselves superior, they made themselves incredibly vulnerable." The question of what to do with the stranded aliens sparked intense debate. Some argued for imprisonment or exile. Others suggested studying them to learn more about potential threats from space. But it was Maria Santos, the former criminal turned savior of humanity, who proposed the solution that ultimately prevailed. "They came here to teach us about civilization," she said during a United Nations emergency session. "Maybe it's time we taught them what humanity is really about." The decision was made to offer the aliens sanctuary on Earth with conditions. They would share their scientific knowledge freely. They would provide intelligence about other potential threats in the galaxy. Most importantly, they would serve as living proof that humanity was not the primitive species that galactic civilization believed. Dr. Hassan was awarded every scientific honor that human institutions could bestow, but he remained focused on the implications of what they had accomplished. "We've proven that quantum disruption can neutralize biomechanical technology," he explained to the assembled scientific community. "But that's not the real victory here." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Foster, his former student who had become his closest collaborator. "We've demonstrated something that will reshape how every species in the galaxy views humanity. We've shown that we can appear weak while being strong, that we can fight wars our enemies don't even know they're losing, and that we can achieve impossible victories through cooperation and ingenuity." The cosmic implications of humanity's victory became clear over the following months. Word of the hegemony's defeat spread through galactic communication networks, carried by the few alien ships that had been outside the solar system during the quantum disruption. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had defeated a major interstellar power without superior technology. Tommy Chen, now heading Earth's new communication security division, intercepted alien transmissions that revealed how profoundly the victory had affected galactic politics. "They're terrified of us," he reported during a security briefing. 3 different species have already sent diplomatic envoys, requesting non-aggression treaties. The covert war that had begun with humanity appearing helpless had ended with Earth being recognized as a major power in galactic politics. But perhaps the most significant change was internal. The irregular forces that had won the war became the foundation for a new kind of human space program, one that emphasized adaptability, unconventional thinking, And the element of surprise, Rebecca O'Connor, now commanding humanity's first interstellar reconnaissance division, summed up the transformation during a speech to new recruits. We learned that sometimes the best way to win a war is to fight it, so that your enemy never realizes they're losing until it's too late. We learned that being underestimated is one of the most powerful advantages a species can have. General Hayes, in her final report as commander of the irregular forces, captured the essence of humanity's unlikely victory. We faced an enemy that was superior to us in every measurable way. They had better technology, more experience, and complete intelligence about our capabilities. They should have won easily, but they made one critical error. They assumed that intelligence and power were the same thing. They never understood that humans fight with more than just weapons and technology. We fight with imagination, determination, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The quantum disruption field continued to protect Earth's solar system, ensuring that no biomechanical technology could function within its range. But humanity was already looking beyond their defensive victory. If they could defeat the hegemony through superior strategy and tactics, what else might they accomplish among the stars? The Covert War was over, but humanity's real adventure in galactic civilization was just beginning. And every species in the galaxy now knew that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared, a lesson that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. In the depths of space, other alien civilizations began revising their assessment of the small blue planet that had achieved the impossible. Earth was no longer a primitive world to be conquered or guided. It was now a power to be respected, feared, and if possible, avoided entirely. Humanity had won their freedom not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. The Covert War had